point?
Yes, and since it's 9:30, we can go ahead and get the presentation started. Before we get going, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tate Van Osdal. I am a senior at CU Boulder. I am majoring in accounting and I have a minor in economics. And I am so excited for all of you to learn a little bit more about the economics program today. So once again, welcome to Virtual Admitted Students Day. Before we get this presentation started, there are a few housekeeping items I want to discuss. Please keep your microphones on mute so we can mitigate background noise during the presentation. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. The chat is public if you send it to everybody. So if you have any private questions, you can select my name and send them directly to me, and I can pass on the question as necessary. You are welcome to keep your cameras on, but I understand that it is early and not everybody may want to have their cameras on. Today's session will be recorded, and so we've tried to make the settings so people are not going to be in the recording. If you have any other questions throughout the day, you can visit the Zoom help room from the Admitted Students Day homepage. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our presenters and they can introduce themselves and get the presentation started.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for showing up. I appreciate your interest in the economics department. I'm the department chair. I've been the department chair for 15 years. I'll just point out my background and Professor Ottman's background. So this is what you'll be getting when you come to Boulder. This is taken just up the hill from the university. And so coming to the University of Colorado Boulder, it's a beautiful place to live, but more importantly, it's a great university. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about our department and the major and why it's a great place to study, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen because you can discover a lot by looking at our department webpage. And so let me go to that and I can give you a little tour. One of the things though, before I begin, I wanna just give a plug for studying economics in general. So economics is kind of an evidence-based, reasoning. We teach people how to think, right? We don't teach you what to think, we teach you how to think. And that's one of the real strengths of the economics major. It's built kind of on 3 platforms. You start out with core work in microeconomics, macroeconomics, and statistics, and that gives you the foundation to then go and study field courses where you apply these and learn how to reason using economics. So here's our department webpage, and I want to first say a little bit about these people over here and talk about our faculty, okay? So one of the things about our department that I would say is, so economics is a very internationally diverse discipline, and it has been since for 100 years, okay? And so we have faculty from all over the world. We have faculty from, just kind of looking by here, from Argentina, from Italy, from Germany, from Brazil, from China, from Uzbekistan, and even England, right? We even have somebody from England, Turkey, and so and Persia, Iran, right? And so. And actually our major for students too, it's similar. So our major pre-pandemic, about 18% of our students in the major were international students, right? And so economics attracts international people. And so if you were to study here, that's the diversity you'd be seeing in the classroom as well. And so there are students from all over the world. I'm teaching an in-person statistics class now, and a full quarter of the students are international students. And so that kind of makes it an interesting place to study, right? And I'm proud of our faculty. One of the things I would say just kind of is our values that the department holds. Our faculty are very nice and approachable people, really dedicated to the students. I feel like as a group, we really do treat our students well. We care about them a lot. So if you go to our webpage, the things that you're going to be most concerned with are courses and the undergraduate program. And I just want to talk briefly about some of the things that we have available for our majors. One of the things here, Cole is the co-president of the economics club. And so that's one of the activities we have. And I think they meet every 2 weeks. Is that correct, Cole? About every 2 weeks they meet. So that's a place where they bring in speakers and you get to know students. But I want to look at this on this tab up here. Dave will be talking to you a lot about undergraduate advising, and we have really excellent undergraduate advisors. These are folks that know our program well. They know all the faculty and the nuances associated with them, because faculty have different teaching styles, and our advisors are really good at pairing students with the right classes for their interests. So we have an honors program that's available. It's usually students do this in their senior year. And in this, you take a year and develop an original research topic and implement that. And it's for students that have a GPA of 3.4 or higher are invited into this. It is a really great program. Franziska Antman, Professor Antman, is one of the really big advisors in that program. And we work closely with students, and you get to know your advisor really well. You learn how to do research. And so that's a really nice program. The department participates in a number of programs, and I want to bring this one to your attention. So I think it was in 1997, I, along with some people in the business school, created the Actuarial Certificate Program. And so that's basically a program that trains people to get ready to be actuaries. And so this is a career track that, we don't have a ton of students that participate in this, but it's something that's available, and, and econ is a big part of this. So students from finance, math, and econ are the primary people that participate in this program. There's also a quantitative finance track. And so these, you have to plan them in advance. Quantitative finance track is to train students to be prepared to be analysts. And most of the people that graduate from the quantitative finance track go and get jobs as analysts on Wall Street. They have a really, really high placement rate. In this track, you have to kind of decide to do this probably in your sophomore year. You take a combination of economics, finance, mathematics. The actuarial studies track, those are to train you to be actuary, and those are people who price and analyze risk for insurance companies and corporations. So let me go back. So those are a couple things we have. Dave's going to talk to you a little bit about our concentrations. Here's something I want to point out. So we have, the department has been generously supported by our alums. And so we have this Eaton Travel Sabbatical Program for seniors. And what this is well, this guy, Eugene Eaton, left a bequest to the university to the tune of about $6 million. And one piece of it, when he was an undergraduate student here, he got his PhD in our department too, but as an undergrad, he went and studied abroad and had a really great experience with that, and thought it was important to support that. And so these travel sabbaticals are available. And for most of the students who apply to these and get them, it basically covers the expenses for going to study abroad. And so that's really a great program if you want to go see the world. And this is a way to get almost essentially a free semester. And so it's a really great program, and Eaton also gave us an endowed professorship. We have, the department has free drop-in tutors, and these are usually our, well, Cole, here's one of them, Cole, but we have students that work for us and provide, they're typically senior students and who are honor students, and there's free tutoring available for actually all economic students. You don't have to be a major. What else can I say about it? Not listed here is the department gives away at least about $50,000 a year in scholarships that are dedicated exclusively to econ majors. And so that's a nice thing. And we have an awards committee that selects those students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over now to Dave Rogowski, and I'll just say a little plug for David. David is an amazing advisor. He won, a couple of years ago, he won one of the big national awards for advising college students. He is a really, really dedicated guy, and if you get him as your advisor when in your second year, he will take care of you. So take it away, Dave.
You were too kind, Professor Flores. Welcome, everybody. I'm also going to share my screen with you because we're going to take a little deeper dive into our major requirements themselves. But, yeah, I wanted to get a quick second just to follow up on what Professor Flores noted. My name is Dave Rogowski, and I've had the pleasure of working as a department-based advisor in the economics program for a little over 10 years now. So I definitely want every student to know that our program is very family-oriented. Once you get into our program and get connected with us in the department, we are doing everything in our power to look out for your best interests as undergrad students and helping you diversify your experiences academically and help you plan those co-curricular opportunities that expand on your education. The beauty about the economics major itself is it's very methodical, very sequential, and it blends nicely for students to also explore secondary areas of interest. So I know a few of you had mentioned interest in some minors in the languages. And even Cole can tell you Cole's doing at least 2 majors. I think we're still working on perhaps a 3rd. So that's what I want to show you with our curriculum here is to show you how nicely it blends to diversify your learning, not only in economics, but beyond. So as Professor Flores had noted before, on our undergraduate tab, we have our list of all of our wonderful opportunities. But then if you look a little bit down below, you see a section called curriculum. And so you can pull up our major requirements anytime you want to by going to our webpage. And what we're going to focus on is the flow chart of the curriculum. So I'll give this a second. Hopefully everyone can see this. Again, the major itself is very methodical and very sequential. For most of our first-year students coming into CU Boulder, we are going to start off with micro principles in the fall semester, and we're going to follow micro principles up with macro principles in the spring semester. And our goal in our first 2 semesters, learning our basic principles theory, is to also accomplish our math requirement in the major. And the highest level of math required for our econ students is any version of an approved calculus course, okay? So some of you this year might be actually taking AP Micro or AP Macro or AP Math. Depending on your scores, if you get at that 4 or 5 level on your exams, you might earn credit already before you step into the CU Boulder campus in the micro or macro principles courses or even calculus, okay? For those who are not doing the AP pathways, then we're just going to look for that natural transition over to our collegiate level economics curriculum. This is going to be something very important later on this summer when you connect with your advisors to help with your registration, is to talk about, if you did go the AP route, whether you would find value essentially retaking our micro and macro principles to give you a much more solidified foundation in that material. We've found that some students who bring in the AP credit and then move right into the next level of the curriculum, it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit more rigorous. So we always want to sit down with the student and plan out that intentionality. But to get back to the flow of this is the first required coursework in the major. Micro principles and then macro principles. And then we're going to do our best to get an approved calculus course completed by the end of our first year. And the reason that is important is because the next step in the curriculum are these 3 classes here listed under step B. It's a second round of theory: intermediate microeconomics, intermediate macroeconomics, and our wonderful economic statistics course. That's the course that Professor Flores mentioned that he's teaching this semester. So all 3 of our intermediate level courses have prerequisites. And prerequisite means a course requirement that must be completed prior to entry, okay? So for intermediate micro, Obviously, that's going to be micro principles and the calculus. Same goes for macro. For stats, we need to get both micro and macro done, and then that calculus. So that's where we talk about, again, the very methodical nature of the curriculum. And a little note on the math requirement itself. On our campus, we have many different versions of calculus being taught by different departments. Economics teaches our own version of calculus. The math department teaches a few different varieties, the applied math department as well. What we're again going to look at is to say any version of calculus is suffice to move on in our intermediate level curriculum. However, depending on our academic interests in other subject areas, it may be more advantageous to take a higher level of calculus. So when you see these three boxes here with the three different types of calculus here, you'll see here Math Tools for Economists 2 is your very basic calculus course that lacks trigonometry. Math 1330, Calculus for Social Science and Business, is a little bit incorporating that trigonometry material that you might remember from high school. And then the 5-credit Calculus 1 is the full-fledged calculus all the way with straight trigonometry. If we are pursuing, aside from economics, any sort of additional credential in math or computer science or physics or statistics, or if we're aspiring already to think about graduate school options in economics, we want to get the most math preparation as best as possible on the undergraduate level. And we're going to work with students to make sure that we're getting that full-fledged Calculus 1 course completed, okay? And again, what we look at is to say, well, what if we're not sure what our comfort level is starting with math from high school? Later on this summer, when you complete the new student welcome orientation experience, you will be given the opportunity to take a math placement exam. And based on the math placement exam and the score, you're going to work with your summer advisor on how best to position to start with math. So for some students, it might be starting with algebra, might be starting with pre-calculus, you might place right into calculus. Either way, once we get that calculus done, we're ready to advance on to the intermediate level curriculum. So again, natural continuation of the theory from principles, just incorporating a little bit more math. And then once our 3 intermediate level courses are completed, students are ready to advance on to the 4,000 level curriculum in the major. The only specifically required 4,000 level course is our standalone econometrics requirement. We have a few different versions of econometrics, which is our class that teaches the technique of multiple regression analysis. So we have an intro-based course that's a little bit more tied to the traditional theory of understanding regression models. And we have the applied econometrics course, which is a little less focused on the theory, but gives students more practical application of mastering computer software as we introduce the Stata software package in applied econometrics. That's a very handy course to have. And then you're going to see down below, we've got just these open-ended 4,000 level text boxes for the curriculum. So these are what we call our topical electives in the major. So after, as I am fond of saying, of paying dues with the theory, we're able to put theory to practice in the 4,000 level courses. Well, we don't list this on the sheet here because, switch over to our elective page here, we have so many 4,000 level courses that we offer. So if you take a peek at this sheet, you'll see that we kind of group these by their kind of shared subject area, but our students are welcome to take any combination of these topical economics electives that are of interest. So we work very closely with students to say, hey, what are those interests that you have? Let's look at our curriculum and build those connections. So for some students that are very math savvy or thinking about going on to graduate school in stats or economics, we're going to focus in on those quantitative economics courses and really build up your quantitative analytical skills, right? Some students might be more interested in a pre-law pathway. Okay, that's totally awesome, because guess what? We can take political and public choice economics. We can take economic analysis of public policy, economics of the government sector, right? For a lot of students who are interested in taking a way more business-oriented opportunity from the department, we can make that happen with courses like money and banking systems, international finance, down below economics of entrepreneurship or market design. We also, again, have very nice themes and a lot of faculty researching economic development and environmental economics. So one of Professor Antman's classes, very popular, is economics of development, right here. Also labor economics, environmental econ, right? We can go in so many different directions with the curriculum. Really makes it exciting for our students. So when we go back and look at that again, as it relates to the major, we just count this up here real quick. We've got 4 electives, we've got an econometrics requirement, we got 3 intermediate level courses, and 2 principles courses. So in its entirety, our students are going to complete 10 economics classes overall to earn the major. And then we're going to add in 1 to 2 math courses, depending on what we need to accomplish that math requirement. So in its entirety, when we look at the makeup of the arts and sciences degree on the Boulder campus, every student is required to complete 120 credits for graduation. So think of the economics major and its curriculum as a third of that overall total. Most students are going to complete roughly 40 credits to earn our major. A second component of the college degree are the university general education requirements. That's that wide breadth of coursework outside your major that commits the basic understandings of the tenets of a liberal arts education. And for most of our students, that's going to be roughly 30 to 40 credit hours of that 120 credit hour total, which means the rest of your credits are what we call free electives. And at that point, that's where, again, we're going to sit down as advisors and talk to you about how do we want to diversify that curriculum. Would we like a second major? Would we like a minor? Do we want to do an emphasis through economics? Do we want to do 2 majors and study abroad, right? We could get very unique in how we're going to finish crafting that 120 credit hour total, okay? So that's our basic overview of the major curriculum. For those who would like to follow up on this, if we don't have time for Q&A in full later to cover this, I will be at the Advising Information Fair later on this afternoon. So if anyone would like to follow up and do a deeper dive into the curriculum at that point, I'd be happy to engage you later on this afternoon. So on that point, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Professor Antman.
Thank you so much. So that was a great introduction, and I learned something every time I hear Dave describe our major and all of the requirements and everything. They're just really experts, that advisors that we have, and we're really lucky to have them. So I am Professor Francisca Antman, and I am going to just start by sharing my screen. And I just wanted to share just about what Dave was just talking about. I put them in the chat here, and Dave, you can also send a link to that flow chart, which is super helpful and just really simplifies everything, I think. Here, what I really like about our department is you can actually just see all the syllabi. You can get like a history of the syllabi even just from the web page here, and you can look at the syllabi and get detailed information on what these courses are about, and you can also look through the course catalog. I put that link also on econ courses, just short descriptions about what each of these offer. So as Dave was mentioning, I do teach labor economics and at the undergraduate level, and economic development also at the undergraduate level. And those are, I really enjoy teaching those classes because they do really connect with a lot of major issues. So let me tell you that we are talking a lot about the COVID-19 pandemic in both of those classes this semester. Cole is in both of those classes actually of mine, so he can speak to that. But I really enjoy the power of economics to really connect with everything that's going on in the real world right now. The new administration, we're talking about all of those new policies that have been coming out, the stimulus plan, unemployment benefits, everything. So it's a really awesome time to be an economist and to be a student in economics. So I just want to share a little bit with you about other things, cool things you can do with an economics degree, and a little bit overlay about our department here. And I want to leave time for questions. So I'm going to go pretty fast, but you can email me. I'm happy to send you these slides as my email here, and I'll put it in the chat after if you would like me to share these with you. But careers in economics is one of the reasons that drives a lot of students their initial interest in economics. Of course, it has a high earnings potential, lots of stimulating work. That's certainly what drove me to become a research academic economist in labor and development economics. But you know, certainly in the education sector, but also in consulting or research, there's a lot of jobs here. There's a demand for economists across lots of different sectors, the private sector, government, nonprofits, and it really gives you a solid analytical background. As Professor Flores was saying at the beginning of this presentation, we really help develop those analytical skills that you are going to take forward into your career and into your life. So it really prepares you certainly for graduate study in a variety of fields that lead to other careers. But also just in general for making life decisions. We really develop those kinds of skills. So there's a link here to this, the American Economic Association, that has tons of great resources for students. I'm going to show it to you just at the end, but just to talk specifically about research possibilities in economics at the University of Colorado. We also offer those opportunities. That's definitely a very important thing to me as an academic research economist. That is the value I think that we also bring to our students, to opening their minds to how we learn about the world as scientists, as social scientists. In this case, it is a broad discipline that really allows for research on a very broad range of research questions, and we have lots of opportunities for undergraduate research. I've certainly employed undergraduate research assistants myself in my own research in labor, looking at the gendered impacts of different policies, looking at international migration, looking at higher education, all of those kinds of things. So there are opportunities as well in the undergraduate research opportunities program. I've worked with those students as well who get some assistance from the undergraduate research opportunities program to even do their own research, and then just basically link up with a professor to help advise them with that research, or to work on the project of a professor, but developing their own plan. I've also taught applied econometrics, where students do their own research project as well. And I definitely have a very strong commitment to having that culminating research exercise where students can actually take everything they've learned over the course of their time at Colorado and really put it into a final research project. And of course, in the senior thesis. So the student that I just had complete his thesis this year was looking at changes in transportation infrastructure in Colombia, actually, and looking at the impacts on crime. My student last year was looking at foreign peers in higher education, international students, and their impact on outcomes for domestic students, for underrepresented students as well. So looking at those kinds of changes. And so there are just tons of opportunities and just a lot of exciting research. I'm just going to, those links that are in that slide take you to the American Economic Association page on careers in economics, where you can explore lots of information about career earnings, the legal profession in economics, lots of different outcomes for students that study economics. And you can also look at some research of economists, and economists are really doing a lot of research in related to the COVID-19 pandemic as well, and you can see some of that featured there. And then finally, the last thing I just wanted to say is on our undergraduate page, there's just tons of information there, but I personally, because I am I'm currently the co-director of a mentoring program for graduate students in economics for the American Economic Association. So I receive a lot of information for undergraduates as well, a lot of research opportunities, and we post them here on our site. I forward them to the webmaster that posts them. So you can just look here and see some of the internship job opportunities available for undergraduates and also academic opportunities as well. Okay, so I'm going to put those links in the chat in a minute here, but I do want to give time for Cole Davis, who is one of our very highly visible economics students, certainly with his leadership role in the Econ Club, and having taken both, currently enrolled in both of my classes, and also in office hours, doing many of our office hours, tutoring our other students. So we're really grateful to have him here. Go ahead, Cole.
Awesome, thank you. So as you guys can probably see, my name is Cole Davis. I'm an economics and mathematics major, and not quite officially yet, but I will be picking up a comp sci minor as well by the time I graduate. I'm involved in the quantitative emphasis within economics, and I will be also getting the actuarial science certificate by the time I graduate as well. I'm also planning on doing the honors thesis program my 5th year. So a lot of stuff still on the table for me. You might have noticed I said 5th year there. I started my mathematics degree and my economics degree actually fairly late in my college career. I think 2nd semester of my freshman year is when I took micro for the first time, and then took macro the next semester. So started that a semester late, and then started the math degree like a full year after that first micro class, like the spring semester of my sophomore year. That being said, I still don't feel like I'm like getting overwhelmingly. I could like rush it and get everything done in 4 years if I really wanted to, because there's just a lot of flexibility with scheduling and stuff like that, as Dave was saying earlier. I'm also the president of the economics club. If anyone's interested in that, the economics club, we normally bring in like speakers or something, or the very last meeting, we were just giving like registration advice for underclassmen, having like upperclassmen come in and kind of talk about their experiences within the department. Earlier this semester, we had someone come and talk about like optimal social distancing policies and stuff like that, which was a really, really fun discussion we had within the economics club. It was led by one of the professors, Alessandro Perry. Yeah, I mean, I can keep talking about a lot of different stuff, but I think it'd be better if I just fielded some questions maybe from people so I can not get too off topic. So I think if everyone's ready, we can open it up to Q&A.
Corbin has a question here in the chat. What are some common graduate schools or employers post-graduation? Well, actually, I just received an email yesterday from my from a graduate here of Colorado who I was helping with her applications to graduate schools, and she is, has offers from Ohio State, the University of California, Santa Barbara, and I'm forgetting another high profile economics program. So they're definitely very, very good outcomes. In the past, we've had students who've gone to graduate programs at Berkeley, and my other recent thesis student, she is now at Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, which has a very good economics program. And we definitely see a lot of people go into, MBA programs also, and some of them also go on to do graduate work at Leeds, basically after they finish here as well. Abby has a question about when are we assigned our advisor, freshman or so year. So I'll let Dave answer that.
Sure. And to expand on what Professor Ammon just shared about graduate schools, for those who are regional in Colorado and looking at pursuing a master's in economics, there's not too much selection around in the region. At our own institution, our graduate program is a terminal program at the PhD level. So many of our students who graduate with our bachelor's degree looking for that next level, and we want to be around Denver or Colorado, our main funnels are to the University of Colorado, Denver, and to Colorado State University. And then again, depending on location, we see a lot of students go to the West Coast and to the East Coast for graduate school. As things look for advising, once summer has started and we start our new student welcome experience in June, every incoming first-year student who's got the declared economics major for the summer is going to be assigned to myself or to another department-based economics advisor so that we can work with you right from the start about sculpting how your first semester's curriculum is going to look, okay? And then once summer concludes, we do a handoff to one of our dedicated first-year academic advisors on campus. And so the university right now has a very growing and very supportive, what they call first-year experience program going on across all of the colleges and schools. And so you get reassigned to this dedicated first-year advisor who is going to be holistically supporting you in your first 2 semesters, not only with the basics of your curriculum, but getting you involved on campus, getting you in tune to other opportunities that are going on campus. And so you build that connection in your first year. And then once you transition out of first year to your second year, you get reconnected to us in the department as your dedicated advisor for the rest of the duration of your time at CU. So during that first year, even though I might not be formally connected to you or our other department colleagues, our doors are always open to all students. So if we have a handoff, or if we're together working later this summer and then we have a handoff to our first year advisor, we're still going to want to maintain a connection with you ancillary on the side. Oh, I don't have my chat room open here.
So I'll answer that question about principles of micro and macro are held in lecture halls. Oh, Cole's answering that. Okay, sorry. Cole, he's on it. Thank you, Cole.
We should add about the RAPs though, right? The opportunity for those smaller economics classes for principals.
Yes, so one of the nice components of getting involved in the first year experience is signing up to participate in one of the first year residential academic programs. And the residential academic programs, we use the acronym called RAPS, is a dedicated living and learning community on the Boulder campus. We've got, what are we up to now, professors? About 12, 15 different RAPs right now that a student can self-select into, and it creates the opportunity for you to have a very vested community with your peers during your first year on campus. And so you live together in the same residence halls, and we try behind the scenes to give you as much of a block curriculum schedule where you're going through the motions and taking the same types of courses with your peers a few times each semester in the fall and in the spring. And so to help engage the RAP components, our department does offer micro and macro principles through about 3 or 4 of the different residential academic programs. And what's nice about that is those class sizes, not only for our principals courses, but for other offerings, are structured to be more like almost a seminar base. So they're capped at 20 to 25 students at a maximum. Whereas if we engage a normal lecture, like a micro principals, if we're going through the motions, that could be 200 students, maybe 400 students. So it creates a different atmosphere of terms of how you feel engaged in your first year. We really, really love to see as many students as possible engage a RAP experience, because it really does foster a great sense of community with your peers. It gives you opportunity to have much more interaction with your faculty right from the start as a first year student. And again, we're going to have sections of micro and macro tied to a few of those different RAPs. If we're not affiliated with a RAP and we're just going through the normal motions of our curriculum, again, you're going to have multiple opportunities to select from multiple sections of our principal's coursework.
I think it's also worth noting that those like principals classes, if you're not taking it through a RAP program, they are like bigger lecture halls. But as you move on, if you go into like theory, all the lead students leave. So you have smaller class sizes. It's going to be closer to probably somewhere between like 30 and 60-ish students. But it's going to be a much smaller lecture hall and a little bit easier to like communicate with the professors and stuff. Not that it's not easy in a lecture hall necessarily. I mean, it depends on the lecturer, of course, but it just smaller class sizes as you get later into the degree.
Yeah, following up on that. So our 4,000 level classes are limited to 47 in size. So all of them have that same, even when they're given in bigger lecture halls, they're still at 47, limited to 47 students, which compared to our peers, like if you go to the university, I got my PhD at the University of California, San Diego. And if you go there, the 4,000 level classes have over 200 students, because they have grown so much. They just built a lot of big lecture halls. So even though we have those initial big classes, most of the classes are not really that large. And I think if you would go to even Stanford and places like that, have pretty big classes. So we keep those down, and it makes for a good experience.
Yeah, I will say I got my PhD at Stanford, and I was a TA for the principals in that, and it is very large lecture, and it is, I think, very common. I did my undergrad at Harvard, and there it was 2,000 people. It was a huge lecture with recitations, and we should point out that there are recitations as well here, so you do have a smaller experience that is coupled with that larger lecture hall if you go that route.
So, okay, so Dave, do you see that there's a question about how does study abroad work, and then what are the major places that our majors go to? What are the places our majors go to? Dave can definitely answer that.
Sure. Study abroad is an excellent opportunity for all students on the Boulder campus. We really encourage students to start thinking about an education abroad experience early on in their planning. And it's really easy to facilitate. The campus partners with hundreds of programs across the globe to set up connections so that our students can travel to that destination point of interest, attend the local university, and behind the scenes, we've already worked to evaluate the types of courses that are offered at that host institution to ensure, one of my made up words here, the transferability of those credits back to your Boulder campus to count towards your degree requirements. And so many times as advisors, we're going to sit down with students and say, well, what is the area of interest for travel? And then based on that area of interest, we're then going to further dissect it to look at the programs and to see what sorts of courses they offer. So we're always going to recommend to students you have a very nice set of general education requirements in the college that in part can be easily facilitated accomplishing through abroad. Also, our general elective credit space is a perfect use for an abroad experience as well. If program is appropriate for the needs of our major curriculum, there is opportunities to take courses in the major. So our students' most popular destinations to travel to are London, England, Spain, South Africa, Australia. France is growing a little bit as well. But sadly, our COVID restrictions have lessened those opportunities the last 2 semesters. And so we're starting to see our campus regrow those connections with study abroad for this upcoming fall semester, and it's only going to expand from there. So for those who are interested, make that known with your first year academic advisor right away so we can start planning that into your curriculum.
Also, just real quick, if you're a student and you want to go abroad, you do have to take like an abroad 101. It's like an hour seminar, but you will get a ton of information at this seminar, like all the website links you need to like actually like do some research on your own. And this is something you're required to do if you want to go abroad.
So because I work with all the students who get the funding from the Eaton travel sabbaticals, students go abroad and just have an amazing time. I highly recommend it. I have a 27-year-old daughter who spent a year in Germany as a marketing major and just had a really great experience. And it really changed her life, I think. So I highly recommend thinking about doing that. So now it's gotten a little past 10:15, and so I think it's time to close her down. But I want to, I hope that all of you will come and join the department. Feel free, if you have any questions, you can email, we're easy to find. I'm on the webpage. Everybody's on the webpage. For advising stuff, Dave is super helpful. He helps people, he'll help anybody. So he's a great resource. And I'm available too as Professor Hammond. So any questions before we close it out?
Okay. Well, if there's no additional questions, I want to say thank you to our presenters for all of that wonderful information about the Econ department. To all the students, I just wanted to remind you that your next session will start at 10:25, and you can find the list of the student experience sessions on the admitted students website homepage. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
So much. Hope to see you.
Thanks, Cole and Francisca and David and Kelsey and everybody there. And Ben
Yeah.
Paul too.
Great job.